For those of you who may have lost patience with Clint Eastwood and David Bowie's crowd, few in number though you may be, I'll go through what really happened. As a child, Colucci and the Ford brothers began to steal things, and I withheld myself from what they were doing and followed back up trying to get the property returned to the people they stole from. I did not participate. They had corralled me into coming out with them and then scared me to death. So I sat on my hands, refused to participate. And they would steal from people. I would try to get the things back and talk to the police. It's the same thing at school with Brecker. I talked to the principal. His father virtually accused me of being the person who talked to the principal because they came and retrieved the stuff. But eventually, from the violence, it became obvious that I wasn't going to be able to stop them from kidnapping me, for example. I didn't go to school one freezing day, and they found me. It's horrifying. I went into seizures just remembering that day. 30 years later, 20, 30 years later, in Iowa, where I went to scream. And the bullies from New York, working with them through the studio system, said that I was hiding something. And I couldn't remember what happened. They said I was hiding something of a lewd sort. Now, it didn't have anything to do with Dee Dee, except these were people on her team. Dee Dee had a really very large team of people who had set it up so that I wouldn't be able to escape her being a fly trap. And this team were documenting it, and they were adults. One of them was an Attica State Prison psychiatrist. It's hard to see what a deaf child, 11 or 12 years old, frightened out of his mind, what sort of chance I had against Bernard Wattenmaker. But they were making me out to be a profile of a collaborator from World War II. I simply got it into my head that the best thing to do is to minimally go along with it so as not to be object of brutal violence, but to also escape. I would hide in my towel closet at home for fear that someone would come in. There were people who did come in when my mother was not home. They were witnessed. And we moved. It was blood curdling. When I got to my new neighborhood, I was surrounded by a wolf pack of hyena Zionists, led by Martin Edelman and Miles Kirshner, joined Tom Gordon and Leslie Katz, Steve Langer, Ellen Berkowitz. They were a Hebrew school team. They sent me to Hebrew school, which meant I got to serve as Leslie Katz is, she called it her cat cleaning, her nightly cat cleaning. And she humiliated me by giving her virginity after 2 years of this to some guy at school as soon as she met him, just to, work my head. Gordon was saying things like, get your goat, and Exler was going, you blew it. I just thought it was disgusting. I talked to some people about it, thinking I might be able to find somebody who had better judgment than that. Robert Fripp decided that I was a rapist, he said. And he sided with Martin Edelman. And what they did was all planned. I was working in a medical library when AIDS came in, and I heard horrible things about Rick, and he was in office saying and doing horrible things. I thought, what if this is his doing? They're going to set up a sting for people who are liberal and romantics. Incurable Romantic was what Karen Levitt called me. Karen Levitt, like love it or leave it. Leave it, love it. She was an intermediary between Leslie Katz and Robert Shred. And I got a call from this cult that was everywhere, the Gurdjieff cult. And sure enough, they introduced me to a woman with a tattoo of the Grim Reaper pointing at a vagina and needle tracks, a high risk person. And, their Beatles were writing to me. It's like, what's going on? Getting letters from Abbey Cathedral signed, people working with Peter Gabriel and stuff. And then I realized that Ian Watmaker was a neurosurgeon. I saw the index, the annotations in King Crimson's record, which they had played for me. And it was a little bit scary, like what had happened to me on the cover, the guy screaming, right? And the reference to Death Seed, and so on. And I remembered Wilsell saying, what would you think of a scheme to transform the human race by injecting the blood back when I was living with Ray Geiger in art school, before AIDS happened. Here he was, and he sent to me that postcard. So they were talking about it before they did it, And he was praising Goebbels, and Gabriel sends me this thing that says Experience Park. I was talking to artists and technologists with the Experience Park in mind, and I was like, at the time, I did not think Gabriel was in on it. I thought he was deluded. And that led me to accept Rose as a confidant, someone who I trusted, because I believed that it was an attempt to give me courage, that she loved me. But it turned out that Peter Gabriel was in on this one, that Jeffin was in on it, and they were telling this backstab story about could have saved John Lennon and stuff, to promote a girl whose picture appears on Fripp's album from 1979. So obviously they were all in on it. And it's not like Murder on the Orient Express, they all killed John Lennon. It's different than that. He pulled a Houdini. It was a double use of a double, as in double fantasy. And the whole thing was this Hollywood Axis operation that went way back to the days of Disney and Sergei Eisenstein. So what happened was that they tortured me, and I went to school with the evidence. I went to the courts with the evidence. They arrested me for trespassing when I tried to cancel an appointment. I mean, everybody was evidently in on it. Like, it's a good thing to abandon children and to be deceitful and to criminalize romantic relationships and to pursue genocide and to lie about it. Like, that's a good thing. Is what really happened. I mean, so the stuff about, you have to ask yourself, is it wrong to try to get to the bottom of such a crime? I've talked to police about it. I've talked to school about it. I've talked to peers about it. None of them have the courage to say how they're acting, which is, yes, it's wrong. We don't want to know. But obviously, I don't think it's wrong to try to get to the bottom of something like that. So, lying to myself was less a matter of being lied to by someone powerful and psychotic like Penis Gabriel. Is what, because King Crimson were evidently not the people to turn to for help. They were the perpetrators. It was, how does Roger Waters put it? So you think you can tell. So you think you can tell on me. You think you can tell on me.